Hey man, you was in there standing up while you were eating. When they bumped down on you, they asked you, is you under these five or is you a rapper? You said a rapper. I got facts about these, man. Hey man, I'm on your ass, man. You know what I'm talking about, man? Cause why, hold on, man.
I really thought I had Memphis rap all figured out. People out here acting like these rappers are untouchable, like they some kind of legends walking above everybody else. But inside prison, that image don't mean nothing at all. Now picture this, Pooh Shiesty, yeah, the same guy who had the whole country yelling back in blood is now getting pressed in federal lockup. Rumor has it he had to move different just to survive, even putting on a show like some kind of jailhouse entertainer just to eat without problems. And it don't stop there, it actually gets way crazier. Word going around is he wasn't getting treated like no superstar once that Draco wasn't around. They allegedly had him standing during meals like he was back in school getting punished, messing with his commissary, and when real inmates stepped up asking, you one of us or just a rapper? People saying he folded quick, no hesitation. But here's where everything flips upside down. There's exclusive footage of a man who did 32 years behind those walls going live and speaking up for Pooh Shiesty. This OG really risked his name to clear things up, and what he said, it changes the whole story in a big way, no joke. By the end of this, it's going to be clear who was real, who was capping, and why this whole situation even blew up. Some folks in Memphis would rather tear down their own star than watch him win. This story got layers on layers, and every piece hits harder than the last. Millions of streams, platinum plaques, and the whole city of Memphis riding with him.
You ain't stand up? You ain't sit down? When it was time to stand on business? So you let a nigga basically get you, man, made you stand up and eat your food. I thought you supposed to sit down and eat. Man, you got the internet food, man. That nigga a hoe in jail, man. That nigga a buster, nigga. And I can get the penitentiary on the phone, nigga. For real.
Pooh Shiesty was really that guy, no question about it. But the moment those federal charges hit in 2021, everything flipped upside down fast. The same streets that hyped him up started watching closely, waiting to see if that same energy from his music would actually hold up behind those prison walls. But here's where things get wild. While he was locked up, stories started leaking from inside federal prison, and they painted a picture nobody was expecting at all. We talking about serious claims that could shake a street rapper's image to the core if they turned out to be true. To really understand how deep the situation goes, you gotta go back to the moment Pooh Shiesty first stepped inside those prison gates. That's when everything started shifting. Back in 2021, he was on top of the game. Back in Blood with Lil Durk was everywhere, breaking the internet, and people were already calling him the next king of Memphis rap. But that Miami case involving violence caught up with him fast, completely out of nowhere. When he got sentenced, the entire hip-hop world locked in to see what would happen next. Back in January 2022, he accepted a plea agreement, taking responsibility for a conspiracy charge tied to illegal weapon possession connected to serious criminal activity. The government was aiming to hit him with 10 years, but his legal team stepped in and managed to bring it down to 63 months. Still, this wasn't no light situation at all. This wasn't county jail. This was federal prison where your name and fame don't carry weight if you can't stand on your own. Federal prison runs on a whole different system with its own rules and its own politics, and for a young rapper coming out of Memphis, this was about to be the ultimate test of who he really was when everything got real. Now inside, different groups move in their own ways, and every step matters. Inside federal prison, it's a whole different world. You got gangs, people sticking with their city, and then the ones who stay on their own. So when somebody high profile like Pooh Shiesty walks in, everybody locked in, watching closely to see exactly where he fits.
Rapper Pooh Shiesty is facing prison time after pleading guilty to a gun charge in Miami federal court. The case against Lontrell Williams Jr. stems from 3 shootings during the past 2 years, 2 of them happening right here in South Florida.
But this is where things start getting messy. Rumors began spreading that Pooh Shiesty wasn't moving the way his music made people believe. The same image fans were used to. People inside were saying it didn't match up at all. We talking about claims that could shake any rapper's name if they stick. Sources started popping up online saying Pooh Shiesty was dealing with real pressure behind those walls. Memphis inmates even jumped on social media, claiming they knew what was really going on and how he was carrying himself in there. Then one Memphis voice in particular stepped forward with some heavy accusations. This guy claimed Pooh Shiesty was getting pressed, even being made to stand while eating his meals like he was being checked. But that's not even the part that had people talking crazy. According to that same source, things got real when certain inmates approached him and asked straight up, "Is you one of the five or is you a rapper?" Basically asking if he really lived that life or if it was all just music talk. And here's the part that had the streets buzzing heavy. Allegedly, Pooh Shiesty answered rapper. Now for a street artist, that kind of answer hits different because people take that as stepping away from that tough image. So now everybody talking, here's someone known for rapping about street life, conflict, and pressure, and now people claiming his reality inside didn't match the image at all, and the source didn't stop there either. He kept going, claiming Pooh Shiesty was getting moved around, having to follow orders from other inmates like he didn't have a say in anything. The way it was described made it sound like he was constantly being tested, like people were seeing how far they could push him, but then it got even more intense. Another claim said Pooh Shiesty had to freestyle and perform for other inmates just to stay on good terms. Think about that for a second. The same artist pulling in millions of streams on the outside now allegedly rapping inside just to keep things smooth. If that's true, that's a wild situation. And as time went on, these stories didn't fade. They spread even more. Memphis blogs started picking it up, street conversations got louder, and his name kept getting dragged while he couldn't really respond from behind those walls. According to that same inmate pushing these claims, Pooh Shiesty was getting labeled in a negative way inside the prison system. For any rapper, especially one whose image is built around strength and confidence, that kind of talk can hit hard and follow you for a long time. But there's another angle people don't talk about enough: the money. Pooh Shiesty went into prison as a platinum selling artist with real money behind him. And in federal prison, money changes everything. While most inmates are just getting by on basic meals, someone with funds can live a completely different experience inside the same place. We talking about a commissary account that stays loaded. In federal prison, people on the outside can keep sending money in. And he had a whole team, label, management, and fans, making sure he was good. When your account, when Chigo Setulaan stays full like that, your day-to-day life looks very different even in a place like that. We talking stacks on stacks of ramen noodles, real tuna packs, honey buns, chips, protein bars, full spreads coming straight from commissary. Inmates be putting together whole meals that would honestly surprise you. And Pooh Shiesty even said it himself after getting out. He was eating steaks behind bars, not slang, not exaggeration, real meat on his plate. Once you understand how federal prison works, that actually makes sense. When you got money, you can pay other inmates to cook for you, trade up for better food, and basically run your own little setup inside those walls. So one thing is clear, he wasn't starving at all, not even close. But it goes way deeper than just food. In federal prison, money brings a whole different level of comfort that most people on the outside don't even realize. You can get better hygiene products, better shoes, better clothes within the rules, just an overall better experience compared to inmates who don't have anything coming in. When you sitting on platinum level income while others barely scraping by, it changes how people look at you and how you move inside. That kind of gap stands out fast. But here's the twist nobody ignores. Having that kind of commissary power can also put a target on your back real quick. Once word gets around that someone's account stays full, it can attract the wrong kind of attention. That's where things get complicated. Situations like that can lead to pressure, people testing boundaries, or even trying to take advantage. So the whole question about whether Pooh Shiesty faced issues over his commissary isn't simple at all. In a place like federal prison, having money can be a major advantage, but at the same time, it can bring problems you didn't see coming. Now let's get into the topic that really had people talking, the protective custody situation. This right here is where things turn serious because in prison culture, PC carries a label that can stick with you long after you leave. Protective custody basically means being separated from the general population, either because you asked for protection or the prison decided you needed it for your own safety. On paper, that sounds understandable, but inside, that label can hit your reputation hard. Word started spreading that at some point during his time, Pooh Shiesty was placed in or around protective custody. Now, whether that was his decision or something the administration enforced, that's where the debate really begins. Here's what a lot of people don't think about. When someone high profile enters federal prison, officials don't just throw them into the mix and walk away. They run security checks, look at potential conflicts, and assess risks based on who that person is and how well known they are. And let's be real, Pooh Shiesty isn't just anybody. His face is everywhere, his name carries weight. and that alone can create situations inside. From the prison's perspective, they have to be careful. If something serious happens to a well-known artist under their watch, it becomes national news instantly and brings major consequences for the facility. That's not something they take lightly at all. So in some cases, protective custody isn't even up to the inmate. The administration can make that call on their own, whether the person agrees or not, and once that happens, the label comes with it, and people will talk no matter what the situation really was. But the streets don't care about policies or official explanations. In that world, PC means one thing and one thing only: you couldn't handle being in general population. That's the narrative that started sticking to Pooh Shiesty's name while he was still locked up with no real way to speak on it. Memphis blogs grabbed the story fast, gossip pages pushed it even harder, and before long the PC talk got mixed in with every other rumor floating around. It turned into a full storm of accusations, all hitting at once. But here's where it starts getting real confusing. People who claimed they were in the same facility at the same time started speaking out, and they weren't saying the same thing at all. Some said he was in protective custody the whole time, while others claimed they saw him in general population, moving regular and staying out the way. That kind of contradiction says a lot by itself. Not everybody telling these stories could have been there, and not everybody can be right at the same time. Now here's where everything takes a sharp turn. Once these rumors started blowing up online, Pooh Shiesty finally had someone speak up, but not just anybody. An OG who spent over 30 years in federal prison stepped forward and went live to defend him. We talking about someone who's been through it all, 32 years behind those walls, seen every type of situation, and earned real respect that nobody questions. When a voice like that speaks, people pay attention. According to this OG, all those stories about Pooh Shiesty getting pressed or extorted were not true at all. He said Shiesty stayed in his lane, handled his time, and didn't try to prove anything to anybody. And coming from someone with that kind of background, that statement hits different and makes people start questioning everything they thought they knew. The OG didn't hesitate either. He made it clear that Pooh Shiesty was solid. He said straight up he never saw any of that strange behavior people were spreading online. According to him, a lot of those stories just didn't match what was actually going on inside. But now let's really break it down based on what Pooh Shiesty himself said after getting out. In interviews, he talked about his time behind bars, and one thing stood out immediately. He was cooking every single day, and not just basic commissary meals either. He made it clear he was eating steaks, real steaks, not no snacks or substitutes. When the interviewer tried to double check, Shiesty didn't switch it up. He explained he wasn't talking about luxury meals, but he was definitely eating better than most inmates in there. That alone says a lot. Either people were looking out for him, or he had the resources and respect to make that kind of setup happen. And when you factor in the money he had coming in, it actually lines up perfectly. He also spoke on how he spent his time writing music non-stop. While others were getting caught up in prison drama, he stayed focused, building verses and planning his return. That kind of mindset shows where his head was at the whole time. He wasn't trying to impress anyone, he was thinking long term. And then there's this part that really stands out. During his sentence, he even called into $1 million worth of game and spoke from inside. That's not something just anybody can do. Being able to tap into a major platform like that from federal prison, that takes connections, resources, and a certain level of flexibility in your situation. And just like the OG explained, inside federal prison, if you're really moving wrong, word spreads fast and everybody knows. The fact that a respected lifer was willing to stand on Pooh Shiesty's name says a lot by itself. That kind of backing don't come easy, especially from someone who's been behind those walls for decades. But even with that, the Memphis streets still weren't quiet. The same person making those accusations came right back, doubling down even harder. He kept pushing the narrative that Pooh Shiesty was getting pressed, saying he knew what he was talking about. He claimed he had money before rap, traveled everywhere, did multiple bids, and could spot what's real and what's not without hesitation. So now you got two completely different stories going head to head and people don't know which one to believe. But let's talk about something people really overlook, what it's actually like being a celebrity in federal prison on a daily basis, because that experience is nothing like what a regular inmate deals with, and most people on the outside don't fully understand how complex it gets. When you're famous and you walk into federal prison, your name gets there before you even step foot inside. Guards already know who you are, inmates already heard about you, and the administration is already watching you closely. That kind of attention creates pressure from every direction. Some inmates might try to get close to you, thinking it could benefit them. others might test you just to see if your reputation holds up in real life. Then you got people who genuinely respect your work and want to connect on that level. But at the same time, there are also those who might see you as an opportunity, especially if they think you got money or strong connections on the outside. Now imagine dealing with all of that every single day. You gotta stay sharp, avoid problems, protect your mental, and make sure you don't end up in a worse situation than when you came in. That's a different kind of pressure most people never even think about. That's the exact situation Pooh Shiesty stepped into. And one thing people don't talk about enough is the celebrity tax inside federal prison. It's real. The moment you walk in with a name, everybody expects something from you. You gotta figure things out fast. Who actually respects you and who's just trying to use you? Then there's the visitation side, and this is where it gets even more noticeable. A regular inmate might see family once in a while if they're lucky, but a known rapper? That's a whole different story. You got managers, lawyers, label reps, and family all trying to come through. That kind of traffic doesn't go unnoticed. When your name keeps getting called for visits multiple times a week while others barely hear, there's it all. It creates a certain energy inside. Some inmates might respect that, seeing you still connected and active, but others, they might look at it sideways and feel some type of way about it. And don't forget about the phone situation. Phone time in federal prison isn't cheap, and it's limited. But if you got money on your books, you can stay on those lines way more than the average person. It's been said Pooh Shiesty stayed in contact with his team, keeping up with everything happening in the music world even while locked up. That kind of access is a huge advantage and something most inmates don't have. So now the picture gets even more complicated. On one side, you got people claiming he was struggling, getting pressed and dealing with problems over commissary, and on the other side, you got signs that he had resources, connections, and a level of comfort that doesn't line up with that story at all. On one side, you got a 32-year federal prison veteran standing firm, saying Pooh Shiesty was solid and all those stories were false. On the other side, you got people online pushing the complete opposite. So what's really true? Let's start with what we actually know. Pooh Shiesty did his time without any major incidents hitting the news. And that matters, because if something serious was really going down, like constant pressure or major conflicts, it likely would have shown up somewhere official. Federal prison situations get documented, especially when it involves someone high profile. That kind of activity doesn't just stay hidden forever. Then there's the claims about him having to freestyle for protection. That doesn't really match up with what's been said publicly about his time inside. Pooh Shiesty kept saying he was focused on writing music and staying out the way. If he was truly being forced into situations like that, the story would sound completely different from what he's been putting out. But now look at the bigger picture, because this goes deeper than just one situation. When a young rapper rises fast and then ends up locked up, there's always going to be people trying to tear that image down. That's part of the environment. Not everyone wants to see someone else win, especially when they came up quick. The person making these claims seemed very focused on proving his own credibility, talking about having money before rap, traveling everywhere, doing multiple bids. That kind of energy can sometimes come off like someone trying hard to be believed while going after somebody else's name. Meanwhile, the OG defending Pooh Shiesty, he didn't have anything to gain from speaking up. Someone who spent decades behind those walls isn't chasing attention or trying to build a platform. That difference in motive makes the whole situation even more interesting. When somebody with that kind of background speaks up, it usually means something didn't sit right with them. People don't just risk their name for no reason, especially after decades behind those walls. And look at what happened when Pooh Shiesty came home. He didn't disappear or move quiet. He jumped right back into the spotlight and started going viral again with new music. That alone tells a story. Think about it. If someone was truly broken down or heavily affected by their time inside, would they really bounce back that fast and that confidently? His first days out, he was already on live, connecting with fans, moving like the same artist people remembered. Now here's something else that stands out. Pooh Shiesty never sat down trying to prove how tough he was in prison. You know how it usually goes? Some rappers come home and instantly start telling wild stories to rebuild their image. He didn't really do that. He kept most of his experience private, and that actually says more than going on a press run trying to convince people of anything. That kind of silence can come from confidence, not feeling the need to explain yourself to everybody watching. But zoom out for a second, because this situation is bigger than just one person. Every time a young rapper rises fast and ends up locked up, the rumors start flying everywhere. People begin creating stories, questioning everything, and trying to tear down that success. It happens over and over again. And when you look at Memphis, the scene already has layers, different areas, different crews, and real competition over who represents the city. So when Pooh Shiesty blew up on a national level, that spotlight automatically made him a target. There's always going to be people who feel like they should have had that position instead. The allegations against Pooh Shiesty follow a pattern people have seen before. A rapper blows up, gets locked up, and suddenly stories start popping out of nowhere about them getting pressed behind bars. Their name starts taking hits while they can't even respond in real time. But here's the thing. When you really dig into these situations, a lot of those stories don't hold up. They sound loud online, but the facts don't always match. Let's be honest about how federal prison actually works. It's not the same as county jail where small issues turn into daily problems. Federal inmates are usually doing serious time, and most of them already focused on their own situations. The idea that someone is constantly targeting a rapper over small things doesn't always line up with how things move in there. And that claim about him having to freestyle for protection, that doesn't really make sense when you think about it. If someone was trying to pressure a high-profile inmate, it wouldn't be about performances. It would be about money, connections, or something with real value attached. So when you look at everything together, what sounds more realistic is what that prison OG was saying all along. He stayed in his lane, minded his business, and focused on his music. That's actually one of the smartest ways to handle federal time, especially for someone young with a lot on the line. And when you look at it closely, multiple people spoke up vouching for his character while he was locked up. Meanwhile, most of the negative claims seem to come from voices that sounded personally invested in tearing him down. That contrast says a lot about what the real story might be. Now that Pooh Shiesty is home and moving again, his actions are speaking louder than any rumor ever could. He secured an early release based on time served and good behavior. That's not something that just happens by accident. The government was originally pushing for 10 years, but he ended up serving around 3. That's a big difference, and it reflects how he carried himself while inside. You don't earn good behavior credits by constantly being involved in problems or chaos. That part is official, but here's where the story takes another unexpected turn. Just when it seemed like things were getting back on track, a new chapter opened up, and not everybody is paying attention to it. After getting released in October 2025, he didn't have much time to settle in before facing more restrictions. He was placed in a residential reentry facility in Dallas as part of supervised release. That's basically a halfway house setup, where your movement is limited and everything is monitored closely. Then not long after getting out, reports came out about a rearrest. Details are still coming together, but situations like that can escalate quickly under supervised release conditions. And then early 2026 brought even more attention. When federal agents conducted a raid connected to a family property in Memphis, law enforcement pulled up to the house looking for something, and when federal agents show up at your people's door, that's never random. That kind of move always means something serious is going on behind the scenes. Now, whether that situation connects to the rearrest or is part of a completely separate investigation, that part still isn't clear yet. But when you look at everything happening back to back, it definitely raises questions. Here's the bigger picture though. Pooh Shiesty is only 25 years old. He came out of one of the toughest environments, built a name for himself, went platinum, and reached a level of success most people don't hit that early in life. And yet the system still seems to be right there behind him. Whether that's because of past ties, current situations, or just the spotlight that comes with fame, it's hard to pin it on one thing alone. It could easily be a mix of both. Now add in federal supervised release and things get even more complicated. That setup comes with strict rules where you can go, who you can be around, what you post, everything is being watched. For a young artist with a whole career pulling at him from every direction, trying to balance all that pressure while staying within those lines is tough. One mistake, one bad decision, and it can send you right back inside fast. That's why this next phase matters just as much, if not more, than the time he already did. Because federal prison is built to wear people down mentally and emotionally over time. So the fact that he came out still focused, still creative, still connected to his supporters, that says something about how he handled himself while he was inside. But what happens next, that's the real test. Because staying out, staying focused and moving smart on the outside comes with a whole new level of pressure. And right now, that story is still being written. The prison OG who spoke up for him said it plain and simple. In federal prison, the real ones make it through and the ones who aren't built for it don't last. That statement alone carries serious weight. And when you look at Pooh Shiesty's situation, he made it through his time with his mindset intact and His career is still alive. That says a lot about how he handled himself behind those walls. But here's the reality nobody can ignore. Prison and the outside world are two completely different games with two completely different rules. At the end of the day, these kinds of allegations follow almost every rapper who gets locked up. It's part of the culture, whether people like it or not. What really separates everything is what happens after release. And in his case, he didn't come home trying to prove anything with talk. He got back to music, reconnected with his fans, and moved like someone who took something from the experience instead of letting it break him. But the truth is, the chapter after prison can be even harder than the time inside. That's where everything really gets tested. So when people question those stories about him getting extorted, you gotta look at what actually lines up. He had money, so he ate better. He stayed smart, so he made it through. He had someone credible vouch for him, and he earned his way home early through his behavior. Meanwhile, the loudest accusations came from voices that didn't bring real proof with them. But surviving federal prison and staying on track in real life take two different kinds of discipline, and right now he's dealing with that second challenge in real time. The Memphis rap scene still has a place for him, and his full story, from success to setbacks to rebuilding, feels like the kind of real journey his music has always been reflecting. Whether this next chapter turns into redemption or another setback, one thing is clear. People are watching closely, no question. This whole situation goes deeper than just headlines. From what really went down behind those walls to the money dynamics, the protective custody talk, and everything that happened after he stepped back outside, it's all part of a bigger story. Now it's your turn to speak on it. Drop a comment and say what you think. Do you believe the allegations, or are you rocking with the people who stood up and vouched for him? This one got people split, and every opinion hits different. If this opened your eyes or gave you a new perspective, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe for more real stories like this, and don't forget to share it so more people can tap in. Turn on that notification bell too, so you don't miss the next drop. Stay sharp, stay solid, and stay locked in for what's next.